So today's topic is on life cycle strategy. I'm grateful that my friend and past client Gareth Dickens is here with us. So I'm going to introduce Gareth in a little bit. We're going to have a conversation about how to apply life cycle strategy to your business. And if you only take one thing away from this talk, I'd like it to be this, that everything has a life cycle. And if you can learn to recognize its life cycle and manage to the stage, you'll be a much better leader. You'll be much more effective as an individual, as a parent, as a partner, as a business leader. So everything has a life cycle. You can learn to recognize that the stage and manage to the stage. You're going to be significantly further ahead than those who cannot. Okay, so that's the main theme. I'm going to cover these main topics. So if you stick with me to the end today, we're going to cover how to recognize where your business and any business units are at now in their life cycle. I'm going to show you how to drive superior results by adapting your strategies and management practices to the current life cycle stage. I want to talk through the strategies for piloting, nailing, and scaling the second business unit. Okay. I'm going to turn a brighter light here on myself. The second business unit is interesting to me because often we don't know we have a imbalance in our core business until we try to put pressure on the system and launch the second or third business unit. And so it's really interesting to talk through how that works and how you can get it to work better. I want to talk through the evolving role of leadership at different stages. And then I want to end with what type of structure you should consider for different life cycle stages. Okay. Now I'm doing this because well, I'm guessing I'm feeling like organizational physics is my life's work. It's like my contribution, you know, and I want to share it with more people. What's unique about organizational physics is that it's based on principles, and everything kind of hangs together. Like the principles that I'm teaching are true at all systems at all levels, but we're living in a world where people kind of give a cursory glance to one thing and then another thing and another thing. So if you were to come across organizational physics in that way, you go, yeah, seems pretty straightforward, pretty sensible advice. But if you can take the time to go deep and really understand here what's going on and really master it, then it becomes, I would say, maybe even profound in its application. So this is my chance to kind of go deeper, learn from former clients like Gareth and see how they've applied it and what they've learned so that you can do the same. Basically, I'm trying to inspire you to go a little bit deeper into this methodology. Now, if you look at the rest of this doc or links to share here, you'll see some books, some of the tools I'll reference you can try out for free for 30 days. In particular, for lifecycle strategy, you want to know this tool, the top level OKR strategy survey. It'll actually you'll answer some questions with your team and it'll show you where your business is at in its lifecycle stage development. There's also a strategy map. We're going to be using that today a lot. And there's a white paper that'll cover everything I go over here in great detail. Gareth is joining us. That's awesome. There's also a whole bunch of other case studies and testimonials. There's a video I want you to watch later. It's not from me. It's from a guy named Tony Seba. And the reason I want you to watch it is I think we're going through a phase shift in society. A phase shift is another word for a life cycle stage change, by the way. And this video does an amazing job of kind of painting a picture of like all these trends happening at the same time. And so if your business is on the leading edge of these phase shifts, you're going to have to execute faster than your competition. And understanding life cycle strategy and organizational physics will enable you to execute faster. However, if your business is on the other side of the curve, like the other side of history here, wrong side of history, and you got to quickly evolve a legacy business to capture these trends in this new era, you'll want to use organizational physics to master life cycle strategy and quickly get up the curve. Okay, so those are all the links here. And I'm going to introduce us now to Gareth because he's going to be kind of my partner as we go through this together. So Gareth, welcome.
Thank you, Lex. Thanks so much for
Really,
having me. Yeah,
really,
your
please.
organizational physics process and systems and tools has been alive and at work at ConvenientMD. So really excited to share some of my anecdotes as we go through this.
Yeah.
Hopefully others can learn from it. So thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us too, man. Let me introduce Gareth. So I'm fortunate I get to work with a lot of very talented CEOs, okay, around the world. And I really admire Gareth a lot. Really interesting background and a really committed leader. He's always on mission, which is something I admire. But if I compare Gareth to everyone else I've ever worked with, he would be near the very top at his ability to anticipate 2 or 3 steps ahead. Okay. And that's something a skill we can all learn to develop more. But just, tune in. Like when we're under short range pressure, it always tends to overpower long range needs. Yeah. And Gareth is just really good. I don't know if that's a skill you developed or you were born with it, but like you're always able to think several steps downstream. And I always really admire that.
Thanks, Rex. Yeah.
Yeah. So Gareth is I'll read your bio here. You're mission obsessed CEO, founder, entrepreneur, and operator, investor. Uh, how did you? It's actually a quick segue.
Hmm.
Sorry, let me finish the bio. So ConvenientMD is the New England's largest urgent care chain. Okay,
Mhm.
but there's a really interesting life cycle strategy management play here that we're going to break down. And you've been leading that since 2012. You're at about 1,500 employees. You're also a very active investor. Like one investment in particular is OI Infusion Services, another healthcare play, which is now up to about 20 states and 250 million in revenue.
Yeah.
You grew up in a game preserve in South Africa, which is
Yeah.
pretty amazing, right? And also, it's not in the bio, but I want everybody to know that Gareth is a direct descendant of the author Charles Dickens. So
Yes.
we've got business and
Well,
literature
oh,
and
yeah.
prose
Yeah.
here. Yeah,
Many cousins removed, but yeah.
many cousins removed. Yeah. Okay, so Gareth is very, very accomplished. But it's interesting how you got into Convenient MD. You want to talk about the
Yeah.
search fund CEO?
Yeah, yeah. So the search, I was in investment banking. I did mergers and acquisitions and private equity. And a lot of my colleagues went off to, fancy business schools, Stanford, Harvard business schools, and many of them graduated and they raised funds called search funds. So I learned about search funds through some of my old colleagues. Basically, what a search fund is there's a group of investors who will back very young entrepreneurs, unskilled, haven't led companies in their career yet, but sort of have the DNA and sort of promise to do so. And they'll back you to basically spend 2 or 3 years just searching industries that you think have great tailwinds, lots of growth opportunities. The intent of a search fund is really to acquire a business. It's sort of CEO through acquisition, so entrepreneurship through acquisition.
Yep.
And so I raised one of these funds with an old colleague of mine from my investment banking days, and we spent 2 or 3 years searching in the healthcare sector. It was an incredible experience. We found urgent care early in that search. So I spent a lot of time in the industry. Obviously, big tailwinds. So at that time, emergency rooms were flooded with volume. Primary care access was low, and urgent care was sort of this budding in between opportunity for patients to get access to care doesn't cost an arm and a leg like the emergency room. Doesn't take 3 or 4 hours to get care.
Hmm.
And so through that search, I probably walked through 200, 300 clinics looking at acquisition targets. So I saw everything that was out there. I kind of reflect on that as my
Kind of,
masterclass in
yeah.
what not to do in urgent care.
Uh-huh.
Um, but we did notice that up in New England where we lived, there was very, very little urgent care. No one had really brought it here in a big way. Other parts of the country is more saturated. And so we started doing some research on the New England market. It turns out that there was a real need for the service.
Yeah.
And so we went back to our investors and we said, rather than buy something and sort of fix that and grow that in a more saturated, mature market. Why don't we bring this to New England, be kind of a first mover? And so 2012 is when we got the funding from those search investors to start ConvenientMD from scratch. So that's how it all started.
Yeah. It reminds me a little bit. One of my favorite business books is Ricardo Sempler, Maverick. And he was a Brazilian entrepreneur and had a very decentralized management philosophy. But one of my favorite stories from that book is they wanted to get into the ladder market, ladders, okay.
Yeah.
And so he interviewed all the experts and ladders as they were looking for a job, and he just sucked all the information and data out of their heads, and then said, "Hey, we can do this."
Yeah.
It's kind of similar. Like you went on this search quest and got really, really smart and said, "Hey, we can."
Yeah.
So I see similarities there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take us through a little education on life cycle strategy, but for context for the group, we worked together about 3 years ago,
Mhm.
and I'm going to talk about the life cycle play. But like, could you tune in to like what your life was like back then,
Yes.
and like what it's like now?
Yeah. Well, so 4 years ago was the COVID pandemic, right? And even 3 years ago too. So the business had grown substantially. We had recapped. There was a private equity buyer investor, so we were growing rapidly. We had to do a number of pivots during COVID just to serve our communities and get testing out in the field and contact tracing and other things. But we were sort of getting back toward our de novo clinic opening strategy.
Mm-hmm.
I would describe my experience at the time. I was very tired. We had I think we had a bit of a Queen of England, what you would call a Queen of England structure. So
Mm-hmm.
I had my title was executive chairman. I was sort of thinking about exiting the business. We had roles that were sort of generalist in nature, not super clear role clarity. So a few people doing multiple things and maybe the wrong ways.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and everything was very financially oriented. So we did not have sort of a common um, mission and a common set of values and what we were working toward. And at the time, I was also just feeling like the urgent care market nationally was becoming later stage, so becoming more mature in nature. So you're just seeing a lot more competition open. If clinics open closer to patients' homes, that's where they were going, regardless of the service quality. So I was becoming a little worried about the industry in general.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but I knew that we had a really good footprint in New England. We had a strong brand recognition, and that expanding into a new service line in primary care and value-based care would be really enhancing to our value prop. So our patients, our payer partners, employers who are funding healthcare are all looking to find ways to have their employees and members of big insurance plans to get more effective care, right? To
Mm-hmm.
get healthcare that's delivered more proactively, keeping patients healthy, helping patients access the healthcare system in a more effective way, right? Simple things like X-rays and MRIs and CT scans can cost literally 1,000% difference just depending on where you go.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was looking for ways for providers to support patients to sort of better access the medical community. So I had this idea to go after primary care and value-based care and sort of orient our revenue incentives toward the health of our patients and the effectiveness at which they access the care, even outside
Yep.
of our four walls. I had investor support, but internally, uh, had a real tough time shifting the culture. Um, you know, just sort of bringing that forward, even though it was a good idea, the structure, the culture was sort of stuck in its ways. and I had a really hard time moving it. And so we
Yeah.
met. We sort of three things happened when we met that I thought were pretty substantial to the evolution of the company. One is first is I met you and you taught me
Hmm.
about structure and life cycle stage and how to kind of reorient the company to be able to do something like that.
Yep.
The second is Bain Capital's social impact fund invested in the company. And I did pitch this concept of enhancing our value prop through primary care and value-based care, and they were really supportive of that. So we had a supportive investor that
Hmm.
invested at that time. And then the third was I had strong relationships with Anthem, which is the big insurance company here, and they
Yeah.
were really innovative. They were willing to try new things, and so that was sort of like those three things in my mind were sort of catalysts to sort of really transforming things.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to summarize that for everybody, and then I'm going to give us a little education on life cycle strategy. So Gareth is stepped into and he's leading a growth company as the core business in urgent care. Okay, he's anticipating changes in the market, uh, and he launches another business unit, which we'll call value-based care. Okay, and for a while it was a hard go, like easy to start and then hard to grow. And so through some combination of understanding life cycle strategy, changing structure, putting in place some of the things we've talked about, that new unit has been able to get some traction. Now, Garrett's still in the middle of it, right?
Mhm.
And it's complicated growing a healthcare company, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of hard challenges to face. But I want to harness Garrett's experience and wisdom as we go through this, okay? And if anyone has questions, please feel free to raise your hand at any time or ping me in the yeah, raise your hand, I'll ask you, or you can just unmute yourself and ask. Okay, so the most important thing maybe to understand here is that every strategy is fundamentally the same. Every strategy is fundamentally the same. We're trying to get to this happy place, get our business into the happy place where we're serving a growing market with unique capabilities, perceived unique capabilities. And if we can get there, life's really good, it's really lucrative. It's like being Nvidia right now. Huge growth market, unique capabilities. It's life's pretty fun. And bad strategy, by the way, would put you into a shrinking market with perceived generic capabilities. Okay, and you can make a living on either side here, but it's never as lucrative and fun as the happy place. So we're trying to get to the happy place. And there's always a life cycle component here, right? A life cycle component to the market, to the products, to the company's ability to execute. And so this is what we call the life cycle strategy map. And this map is based on several maps, actually. So my introduction to life cycle strategy was when I was leading one of the country's fastest growing technology companies as a CEO, young CEO. And man, it was I don't know what the right metaphor was because it was growing like crazy, but it was total chaos. And I tried a lot of things, but as a CEO, I really felt tired. Some weeks it was exhilarating, other weeks it was just debilitating. And it seemed like every decision had a equal and opposite and unintended consequence, you know? So I always try to do the right thing, but there'd be something I didn't anticipate and I get smacked in the face like multiple times. And things finally changed for me when I had my ego had broken down enough where I was really looking for help. And I was fortunate to come across a gentleman named Itchak Adizes and his partner Sunil Davidi from the Adizes Institute. And they had written a book and done a lot of consulting on corporate life cycles. So Itchak wrote a book called Managing Corporate Life Cycles. Awesome book. It breaks down the stages of the execution life cycle. Okay. The stages that a business goes through. And again, if you can recognize the stage and manage to the stage, you can do the right thing. That really helped me lead my company because I could suddenly had a frame I could put up and go, oh, I'm getting advice to do something that's out of sequence, right? I need to come back here and do the right thing in sequence as a leader. It's like it's no different than managing or parenting a child. let's say you have a 3-year-old, but you're parenting them like they're already a senior in high school. Well, you're going to fail as a parent. Same thing for a business leader. If you have a business line or a product line or business unit and nail it and you're treating it like it's a piloted stage, you're going to fail. So you got to line up the leadership, the structure, the processes, the culture for each stage. And if you can do that, you'll win. Okay. If you miss that up, you still might come out ahead, but it's going to be a real grind, man. Real grind. Okay. So we're trying to manage to the stage. Now, that idea of a corporate life cycle was really interesting to me. And I added to it. Like, so then there was another life cycle philosopher out there, management guru, uh, of the Chasm Group, Jeffrey Moore, right? Who wrote about the technology adoption curve, and that there are different kind of buyers at different stages. So innovators want a certain kind of product and participate as thought leaders. Early adopters want something different. Early majority, yet again, something different. And then late majority laggards are looking for the low cost commodity substitute. And so Jeffrey Moore's insight was, well, if you can cross this chasm between early adopters and early majority, you'll get to market dominance and you can win. What I've done with organizational physics, my contribution is to kind of join these life cycles together. So you have one map called the strategy map, where if you can orient where your business or business units or product lines are in their development, based on this map, it'll tell you what to do. And so those basic stages for the product life cycle are, products got to go through the stage of pilot it, nail it, scale it, milk it, or at any time kill it. But when you're piloting a product for innovators, or when you're piloting a product, you want to be piloting it for innovator type of customers because they are on the leading edge like you are. They'll help point you in the right direction. But if you were to, like, let's say a classic MBA approach is to pilot a new product for the late majority laggards. Excuse me. The late majority laggards will tell you exactly where to be from 2 or 5 years ago, right? So you wouldn't want to pilot it into this stage, even though they're the industry leader, because they'll likely steer you wrong. So you're piloting it means you're very creative, very flexible. You're pushing a lot of autonomy to that unit, but then you got something, right? We're getting positive signals. Then we got to nail it, which means we got to systematize how we sell, service, and deliver for a different kind of customer. Now, the early adopters have a pain point. They want it solved now. And if you can solve that pain point for the early adopters quickly and systematize how you sell, service, and deliver, then you can get into the scale it mode where you can be very innovative again. And the goal is to kind of get your core business up into this state of maturity and then launch new product lines, new business units that go through their own life cycle curve. So Gareth, it's been a while since you've seen this map or talked about it, I imagine, but does this bring up anything for you? Anything that you
Absolutely.
found from
Yeah.
experience? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, for us, our urgent care business was more in the scale it phase. The
Yep.
primary care business has moved from pilot into nail it.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, definitely moments along the way. And I think a little bit of confusion as to where we were and knowing what to do about it.
Yep.
I think for us, the
So let's
providing
just
primary. Go
let
ahead.
me just map that up for everybody, okay?
Yeah.
Here's the core business. And where was it 3 years ago? This is
Uh,
urgent care, we'll call it. Yeah, core
I mean,
urgent care.
it's been sitting there for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And
been
then
sitting.
here's the new business we'll call VBC, value-based care.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where was it 3 years ago?
BBC.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a piece of paper 3 years
it
ago.
was down here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what we did was we kind of redesigned the core. Yeah.
Yeah.
And um, tried to reduce entropy, which means entropy is a sign of friction. It's hard to make decisions. We want to keep that entropy low so that we can keep velocity high. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the core business has stayed here. Now, where would you say that VBC is now?
It's right there.
right
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Early adopter.
Yeah.
We sometimes think we're in the scale it zone, and we've almost broken the business thinking that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're still clearly in the kind of nail it for early adopter phase.
Yeah. Okay. Now, sorry, I interrupted you, but I just wanted to give a visual for people. Like, what are some of your biggest learnings on this path, doing this journey?
Well, for us, a lot of it is internal, right? Just structure and how the new and growing business needs space to figure itself out.
Mm-hmm.
Right there in the core in the urgent care business, there are scale operators. They are, more PSI. They're driving hard. They're leading thousand people team, 1,000 person team. The new business is still trying to figure itself out. So we had enterprise roles like revenue operations, HR, people ops, that are oriented toward this business that's in high growth mode,
Yep.
um, and also sort of questioning the decision making in VBC, like why are you paying them, those team members that, or why is the vacation structure this way? Why aren't you
Yep.
billing in this way? It's just a lot of little differences and that put pressure on that team. So I sort of had to give it the space with a
Mm-hmm.
separate leader,
Mm-hmm.
give it the space to really figure itself out. So that's sort of
Yeah.
like the um, internal things going on. Externally, um, we were lucky to have a very innovative insurance company that was willing to help work and
Mm-hmm.
set these incentives up. Like we tried to structure it as more of a unlimited service for patients, like more of a membership model.
Yep.
Um, their pain points were the cost of care, right? So they want their members to be healthy. They want proactive care, and they don't want their patients going to the hospital and going to get a $5,000 CT scan when they can get one for 500, right? So
Yeah.
that's what they wanted.
Yeah.
Um, and so we put a contract together. We started working with them, and we were selling this vision in that sort of earlier phase, but then we had to deliver it, right, in this
Right.
adopter phase. And there's a ton of pressure to show results.
Right away.
Yes, right
Yeah.
away. But I felt like, it's you have to start stabilizing the things that in that
Uh-huh.
phase.
Yeah.
There's a tendency to just keep innovating, like you've got this novel product and, keep changing it or think about it from your perspective in the way that you want it when your customer wants it a certain way.
Yeah.
We were so adamant about the payment model. We said, we want unlimited care for patients. It's got to be this membership concept. The payers were willing to try it, but their systems just couldn't cope with it. And
Yeah.
I think we were stuck in that zone with the payers for quite a long time, and we sort of were
Mm-hmm.
stuck in pilot mode when we should have just been orienting toward the way that they can do things and the way that they want things,
Mm-hmm.
and developing our program around that, because that would have got us through early adopters, I think, a lot faster. Uh,
Yeah.
and what we've learned is the way that the Anthem, this innovative payer, is sort of pushing us is a structure, a payment structure, and a model that every other insurance company will happily contract with you along the same lines. So, right, in terms of our ability to go and get the early majority, the payers who aren't as novel and interested in innovation, like the structure that we've set with Anthem, we can bring to other payers pretty quickly. So it
Yeah.
took us a long time to sort of accept that, and make that pivot, and then just sort of stabilize our workflows and stabilize the things we knew that were working.
Beautiful. I want to illustrate some things for the audience here. So let's imagine your business is on this map and you have a core business and a new R&D unit. Okay. And I want to reinforce some things that Gareth just said that I think are really important. So whenever this core business was started, if it's up here, it actually went through this journey in early startup mode. The core business was piloted. Yeah. And then you nailed it for a set of core customers and they came back and wanted more
Yeah.
and you're able to get into scale.
Yeah.
Okay. And some businesses don't make it that far, right? Obviously, a lot of businesses don't make it that far, but some businesses actually end up over here in this laggard stage, right? Because they're operating in a commodity market or the company's just been around a long time. Okay, but at a minimum, the core business has to get up into here if you're going to be successful over time. And then notice what Gareth said. He said, okay, because he works in the healthcare space, there's a payer model, right? So on one hand, the payer is kind of the customer. And what he said was, we were lucky with this unit that we had a very innovative payer. And he was actually using language that they're kind of in the innovator early adopter stage, kind of crossing this or straddling this here, where, hey, we have a pain point, we want better health and outcomes for our member base. We'll work with you, you know? But imagine if he tried to do this new unit with like a late majority laggard insurance payer. It never work,
Mhm.
right? It wouldn't be enough data. There would be a ton of overhead. They would probably say to you, Gareth, tell us more, show us more, tell us more, show us more. And you would just
Never be able
take,
to. Yeah.
take those yeses to bankruptcy because they never really
Yeah.
mean anything. Okay. So you got to align with the right customer group at the right stage. Very, very important. Gareth said something else very important. And this more mature unit, they have leaders who are kind of very mature, capable individual leaders. They have a high drive to produce. That's the P. That means they got an engine. They get after it. They're accomplished. They focus on wins. They have a healthy S, which means they can organize, stabilize, or systematize the organization, and a high I, like they're looking for creative solutions. PSI, producer, stabilizer, innovator. Okay. But the core needs that kind of leader. But you have a new R&D unit down here. You got to look for a crazy kind of innovator leader. And you're only asking them, by the way, you're not asking them to come on and innovate this for us and then stay with us forever. Okay. They won't be good at that. You need to align the leader to maximum, in my experience, like one life cycle stage later. So you got to find a leader here for the R&D unit that can take us through pilot it into early to mid nail it. And then you're going to find that they are kind of maybe over their skis or where their skill set isn't so interested in really systematizing how we sell, service, and deliver. So that's cool. So now you're out of R&D. Now you're in, nail it mode. Well, now you're looking for a different kind of leader, business unit leader, product line leader, somebody who can really uh, bring systems, focus, execution, pace to it. And I might take a high innovator leader there too, who can kind of, you know, move into the early next stage. I definitely need some healthy innovation there from that person, but I'm just want you to kind of tune in with me that we're looking for leaders who can drive it into the next stage, but we're not expecting them to take it into a stage beyond that. That makes sense, everybody? Gareth, anything you want to say there?
Yeah. So I am a big I. My
Yep.
profile's a big I.
Yep.
And when we started ConvenientMD, so I was partnered with a big P. I would call him big producer, just get shit done kind of
Yeah.
person. Um, and so we made it through the innovation phase pretty easily. I had to, in the early adopter phase, I had to really push to stabilize. And I'm good at that, but it's not I don't enjoy it. I'm good at it, but I don't enjoy it. So I
Yep.
think that helped us get through that phase as we were building it. And then also I'm just reflecting on, other examples that I've experienced when I started that OI infusion business. There was a phenomenal startup CEO in the role, and we hired him to start that business. And you got to be really brave and really innovative to just start something from scratch. And he did it.
Yeah.
He turned nothing into something, got from
Yep.
0 to 1,
Yep.
and we got a good amount of revenue, but the inside of the company was in like chaos, right? In
Yeah.
chaos.
Yeah.
And he left to go and start another company. And if he partners with a strong stabilizing operator, he's going to be wildly successful. But we had a stabilizing operator step in after him, and we took it to 250 million in about 18 months from about 50 million in revenue.
Yeah.
So it really, really transformed quickly with a different style of leader. So
Yeah. So just to reinforce that, we're managing to the stage, right? We're matching the right style of leader and team to the stage. Very, very important.
yeah.
Okay. Let me give a couple other insights here on life cycle strategy. So you might, you, part of life cycle strategy is knowing what to pay attention to at different stages. And there's 4 key indicators. Okay. Again, you can take that top level OKR strategy survey. It'll figure this out for you. But one is market growth rate. Like, is this market booming or shrinking? That's low to high. Is competition, is there a lot of competition or very few competition? The definition of competition is the perceived practical alternatives. So it doesn't matter if you think you're unique, it's how are you perceived. And then there's pricing pressure. So is pricing pressure low, meaning we can charge a lot, or high, meaning we can't charge a lot? And then net cash flow. Is this operations, printing money, or are we feeding the baby? And so those 4 indicators, market growth rate, competition, pricing pressure, and net cash flow, will tell you if you're in sync with what you're bringing to market with where the market is. It'll also tell you if you're out of alignment. And I want you to kind of anchor this in that this is the path you got to take your business unit through. Pilot it, nail it, scale it, and when you have to, and there's no other option, milk it or sell it off. You can go as quickly as possible through these stages. No, these first 3, you can go as quickly as possible through these first 3 stages. Pilot it, nail it, scale it. You want to avoid the milk it stage as long as possible, but you can go through those first 3 stages as quickly as possible. You just can't skip a stage. If you skip a stage, you get into trouble. Like Gareth was kind of talking about, like a couple times we've tried to get ahead of our own skis and there's been some problems, you know? And by the way, it's freaking hard to grow any business. It's really hard to know what to say yes to and what to say no to. But having this map anchored in your consciousness will help you kind of understand, like, oh, there's a risk here if we say yes to this now. So one risk is it's called the face plant. And this is what happens when you're piloting something new, but you go into a commodity market directly. Best example I can think of here would be Uber. Okay. Notice what Uber didn't do. They didn't create a mobile app and then sell it to taxi companies. What would have happened, by the way, if they had done that? If they had built a mobile app and tried to sell a white label solution to taxi companies, what would have happened, right? We all intuitively go, nothing would have happened, you know? So you can disrupt the commodity market, but you can't attack it directly. You got to figure out where the underserved is, really nail it for them. And that will allow you to scale, and that will put the fear of death into the commodity space, right? And they'll use every trick in the book to try to keep you out. Another good example, Square Payments, right? I'm going back a few years, but you remember Square Payments? They didn't create a mobile payment card to go serve the market segment that already had card readers. They would have failed. Instead, they served taco truck drivers, massage therapists who didn't have payment options then. And then they were able to go around. So you can disrupt the commodity market. Don't let anybody tell you you can't, but you got to find that differentiated solution to do it. This is another risk. If you try to skip a stage, what happens here is you pilot it and then you go too quickly. You never really nail it, right? You don't really understand the customer real pain points or business model. We haven't really systematized how we truly sell, service, and deliver, and we go too big too quickly. There could be too many markets, could be too many features, be the wrong features, but we're out there at scale. We're blowing a ton of money, and we flame out. It was exciting for a while. Gareth, you want to add anything on this one?
Yeah, I just think this one is very alluring and easy to do.
Yeah.
I it reminds me we had a strat planning session. You were leading a strat planning session for us, and the finance team, the finance folks in the meeting had sort of analyzed VBC in this business. They'd looked at the assumptions. It looked
Uh-huh.
really good on paper, right? It looked really exciting. We had demand for our service. We were piloting. We were getting it running. We had one clinic open. Um, and the financials looked so good on paper. The finance team was saying, okay, for our strategic plan, like we need to open 10 of these and like back down urgent care. Let's open 10 of these. Um, and I remember in that meeting, I was a little bit of panic, and we were like, are we really ready for that? And I think the comment you made to all of us is like, well, that's probably the $1 billion question. And we went into a separate room and we sat down with the medical director, the president, the finance team, and we really got real about where we were
Yeah.
and what we'd developed. The assumptions that were on paper were not proven. And in
Yeah.
hindsight, and truly in hindsight, I think we decided to open two instead of 10
Mm.
or 15.
Yeah.
In hindsight, based on what happened after that and what we learned from the payers' issues with the ability to pay us in the way that we were trying to get paid, we would have we would have blown up that new business, and we would have done a lot
Yeah.
of damage to the total company. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just significant damage. So, and it's
Yeah.
so alluring and so enticing
Yeah.
because you got a good idea, you just want to make it big really fast.
Yeah.
So you have
Yeah.
to really put a lot of effort and hold the reins, hold the reins. Don't wait too long, but like get the core right. Like
Yeah.
get your workflows right. Make sure
Yeah.
the payment model works. Have you
Yeah.
really proven the unit economics, right?
Yeah.
Before you go.
Yeah.
So
Really
this
well,
this yeah.
really well said. It takes a lot of courage to hold the reins,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. There's a lot of pressure to go.
Yeah, a lot of pressure to go. Last one here, or there's two more, but this is a mistake that happens. You've actually trying to do the right path. You get up here, you're nailing it, you're systematizing it, understanding the core customer needs, but you don't do it quickly enough. And you lose out to a faster, swifter competitor. And I hate, I always feel sadness here because, like, imagine the entrepreneur. I've been there. You put your heart and soul into this thing. This actually happened to me. I started an office procurement company in my on my mom's llama ranch in rural Minnesota, and I was at it for like 9 months in darkness, just myself trying to get funding in Minnesota for this thing. And for some reason I'm really passionate about it. And I hear this company called Ariba in Menlo Park, and I take my last like $1,500 and I fly out there to meet with them and see what they're doing. And I get out there and the sun's shining and I take a rental car out to their office and there's this gleaming corporate edifice. And I walk in, it's just energy and passion. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so done. I mean, I had to go to like put my head under a pillow for like a week that somebody had beat me to it. So anyway, I have this soft spot in my heart for people who do it. Another risk here of life cycle strategy is you allow the core business to get over there in the milk it stage. And it's very hard to do what I'm talking about if you have a laggard company with heavy structure, heavy bureaucracy, people are comfortable. It's like really hard to launch and grow new business units from there. In fact, I believe you got to restructure there at the core, drive the core back up a little bit, and then you might have a shot at bringing up new business units, new product lines successfully. Okay, so be mindful of that one. Don't let your company flip over into the laggard stage. Now, there's some other things we can talk about here. If people have questions, I'm not gonna. But like you can judge life cycle stage also by the type of funding that's coming at it. And by the way, customer driven or agile development is just saying like, hey, don't go pilot it first. Actually, go interview your customers and give them what they say they want on paper, and then go build it. And I don't care. There's a lot of ways to get around the horn there, but like that's all that agile development is. And I'm presupposing that whatever you're doing has alignment with your company vision, values, and that you can get or have the core competency and the resources. Okay, so those are the kind of the prerequisites. And so you're here on this map, and what I want you to do is like place your business where it is. Not where you want it to be, but place it where it is. Is it here on the core? You know, if it's here in the core, don't go spin out a whole new business line. It's like being a teen pregnancy, you know? Like think about how easy it is, excuse the metaphor if this offends anybody, like to get pregnant. It's like having a good idea. It's like that easy, careful. But raising and growing a child is like a lifelong commitment. It's freaking hard, And the kid's going to go through different stages. So as a parent, you got to be up here so you have the capability to give the kid what they need at each stage. Using that as that like human biology as a metaphor. If you're a grandparent over here, don't let your core business get over here because over here, like it's hard to be a grandparent and be a full-time parent, caregiver. It's fun to visit on the weekends, but like, manage to the stage. You want to line up the stage here. What other thing maybe to show in the links to share is in my book called Design to Scale. I kind of laid out the type of structure you need. Structure is not the org chart. Structure is how the business is designed. And there's a whole process to designing the right structure for the strategy. But basically, in this example, there's a core unit and then a new AI unit. Okay. So the core unit has a evolving structure. It's tailored for that life cycle stage and business model. It was born though from a functional structure. I believe it's really important in the nail it stage, the early scale it, that you do adopt a functional structure. Functions mean sales, marketing, product, finance, whatever. You do adopt a functional structure because if you get that right, functions act like building blocks for a next stage evolving structure. But if you don't have the core building blocks set up right, or a framework in which to design the right structure, it's really hard to get the right evolving structure. You'll end up designing around people, and that comes with a whole other host of headaches. Okay. But down here in the AI unit, I actually don't want you to give much structure at all. Like push a ton of autonomy out that way. Let them figure it out. Now, what's going to happen though when you do that, Gareth was saying this, is that the core business is going to go, wait a minute. Why are you giving that new group so much autonomy? Why are they getting paid the way they are? That's not right. But it actually is right. And so I recommend you use this lifecycle map to teach your company, like, hey, we don't treat businesses and products the same way around here. We manage the stage. Now, what's going to happen is that the core is going to be in conflict with the AI unit here. Okay. There'll be a conflict of interests, maybe even a conflict of vision and values, certainly a conflict of styles. And what you need to do as a leader, let me try to mock this up, is you giving this new unit a lot of autonomy, but as it gets to about right here, okay, you pilot it and nailing it. Now you got to start the integration process. Okay. And so there needs to be a dedicated leader here, a dedicated leader here. And as you get into this stage, you need to have a role in the structure that can begin to integrate these. And let me just reinforce, there will be conflict here. Okay. There will be conflict both directions. Core is going to say, those cowboys, get those guys back in the corral. And the new unit's going to go, those old farts, they don't know what it's like down here. So just be mindful, there will be conflict. And what you're trying to do though is bring new life here into core. And you've allowed this thing to mature enough where it can go to school now, right? It has enough resiliency capability to go into integrate into core. But it doesn't down here. It'll get squashed down here. And kind of what happens in theory is that this can become this gets integrated, but it could even keep going and take over the core. That's another hidden conflict. Okay. Let me give you the same scenario with this picture here. This one, right? I'm just illustrating like move things up the curve, get your core business here, right? Strategy, structure, culture, team, processes. Then you can start to spin out new kids who will go through their own life cycle stage and perpetuate the family line. Okay. So let me see how we did on our objectives. I think we talked a good bit about the second business unit, different leadership styles, structure that you need. Uh, Gareth, I really appreciate having you on the call. I want to say to anybody listening, like if you like this way of thinking and you've got a big opportunity to capture, consider applying to my Design to Scale coaching program. If I can't help you, I'll let you know. But if I can help you, it's probably worthwhile because we can make big impact really quickly. And I want to say thank you all again for joining. There's a coupon I'm offering. It's 20% off a light membership or product sales orders. And so you can use that for things like the entropy survey and the top level OKR survey and PSIU assessments and other things like that. So anybody have any questions about things that we've talked about today? Let's open it up.
Lex, I just wanted to thank you for your hard work in this field. You've been at it a long time and you keep refining it.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
I have a question for you, Lex. You
Yeah.
talked about as the baby, the R&D business grows and it enters more maturity, gets closer to the core.
Yep.
It's a good idea to actually create a role in the structure to integrate.
Yeah.
What
You
what
might,
kind of what kind of
well,
role is that?
it depends, but it's going to either take the shape of business integrator, business alignment, if or potentially product management. So any of those quadrant two roles that are kind of exist to create cross-functional integration and optimization are well suited. In fact, some of the best business alignment people, business alignment roles are actually pretty well versed in mergers and acquisitions integration.
Mhm.
It's that kind of mindset and skill set of how to bring things together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question. Anyone else have any questions you want to go over? Okay, Gareth, any final word you want this group to hear?
Final word. Well, I will say this whole experience over the last few years has been really extremely rewarding. Like we've my energy's back, right? We've actually I love the concept of having an idea and seeing it come to life.
Yeah.
So that has been extremely rewarding. And I don't think it would have been possible it would not have been possible with the old structure that we had. And yeah, so and the next chapter is going to be interesting, right? We have this baby business that's growing. It's getting
Yeah.
close to early majority. So I think that's kind of the phase we're in at this point. So yeah, I really appreciate everything that you've done for us. The whole leadership team is the organizational physics is at work within the leadership team. Everybody is well versed in it, and it's really served us well. So huge gratitude to you and this whole framework. So
Well, thank you. I'm also really excited to see the next stage for the new unit.
yeah,
It's a big accomplishment. And in summary, team, I just want you to remember that everything has a life cycle. Okay, everything, and manage to the stage. All right. Appreciate everybody's time. Thank you.
thanks, Lex. Bye.
Bye bye.